So as far back as 2012, Susie has been trying to warn New Zealanders and other citizens around the world, really, about the state targeting and surveillance of citizens and the methods that are being used to do so. And some 6 years later, in December of 2018, an official State Services Commission report confirmed that the New Zealand government agencies had been employing Thompson and Clark Investigations Limited, often referred to as Thompson and Clark, to target New Zealand citizens. So this is a private company that has essentially been instructed by state agencies and departments to spy on citizens. And she was very much vindicated in 2018. However, the mainstream media failed to even reach out to her or speak with her about this or acknowledge that she was right all along.
Really, that does surprise me, considering that the mainstream media pretty much get all their information at the moment, it seems, from anonymous sources within intelligence agencies. This is one of the reasons why we've got to put a stop to this, or at least rein in the power of these Five Eyes, in my opinion. Now, I want to move on to something, because it's worse. The state of affairs is worse with the national security state than we've outlined. So this is Dame Cheryl Gillen who's asking the questions of Jack Straw and William Hague here.
Dame Cheryl. Both of you have now reached the decision that legislation is almost impossible.
So she's saying that both of you have reached the decision that legislation is almost impossible, and she's talking about legislation here on the national security state and what the government controls and what they should have a say in and what they shouldn't. Because obviously, where do you draw the line? I'll let this continue.
Started from a base that it was necessary, and I presume what has really contributed to that is the fact that it's much harder to define what the nature of warfare is, or.
So she's saying there that they literally can't control over what the government has jurisdiction over with regards to hybrid warfare, because we don't fire rockets anymore. We fire off sanctions and we fire off cyber attacks, you know. I'll carry on and let this continue.
Deployment of military force. And I just wondered whether reaching that decision has also taken it further away from the opportunity of Parliament actually considering and authorising military action, or what could be deemed to be military action.
So she's saying, just to let you know, she's saying there that it's been taken away from Parliament, basically, as to what is deemed military action and what the Parliament should have a say in when it comes to, you know, matters of military action and the way we now get involved in hybrid warfare and sanctions, etc.
Because let's face it, we've got the increasing use of hybrid warfare, we've got cyber that you mentioned just now, Lord Hague, social media, money, proxies, all sorts of things. And you've got things like the People's Liberation Army in China increasingly looking at space warfare.
Yeah, space warfare. She's saying they were under attack. I mean, there was. You may remember, I think it was last year or the year before, there was an attack on the NHS, and the NHS was being held to ransom by a cyber warfare attack. So these things really do go on, and we have to know how to defend against them ourselves. But where do you draw the line? And obviously, if you give people unlimited power like this, how is it going to be abused? I'll let this play on.
And considering that an integral part of warfare, in denying adversaries access and all the other things, how realistic is it that Parliament can actually look at these things, consider them, and then authorise them?
Okay, so she's asked, how realistic is it for Parliament to be in control of these things? Now, I've cut out the answer that Jack Straw gave here. Not surprisingly, Jack Straw totally dodged the question and answered a totally different question. And you'll hear William Hague mention that, and he does say, oh, you mentioned hybrid warfare, and he brings that up because Jack Straw totally ignored that part of the question.
I mean, it doesn't eliminate that possibility, but I think there will be more circumstances where it's not clear whether there is a state of war or peace.
It's not clear. There are going to be more circumstances where there is not a state of war or peace. Doesn't that ring true right now, don't you think? I'll let this carry on.
Dame Cheryl's question refers to hybrid warfare, and
that's the reason he brought it up, because Jack Straw didn't cotton on to the right question.
I have advocated in some things I've written NATO needing to update its collective defense commitment to deal with situations where a member of NATO has not been physically attacked, or no one is acknowledging attacking that member, but it clearly is under attack in.
So you can see there, he's gone straight down the route here of, well, what if somebody in NATO is attacked? Haven't we got to defend them then as part of NATO? You know, attack on one is an attack on us all. So you can see they're getting even more hawkish here rather than rein things in. It really is worrying, this is. I'll let it carry on.
Some form of hybrid warfare, and that NATO should then be able to take some collective action that stops short of full-scale military involvement, but nevertheless might have some physical effect on an outside party. Now that's then very difficult to define whether that's military action or not.
And this is the point. It's very difficult to define. I will let this play on.
It's one of the problems in trying to frame legislation on this subject. But I don't think it would be right to say, well, all of this is going to get much more difficult in the future, and therefore we'll have more areas of uncertainty in our convention, and Parliament might be less involved in some of these things. We have to try and find the answer to that. And again, I think the answer is providing for the inclusion of Parliament. Again, coming back to the idea of certain committees of Parliament, to a higher level of briefing, education, information, discussion, so that they can at least give their opinion to the House as a whole, which then informs whether there is a debate and decision.
So you can see there, William Hague's answer is obviously more meetings, more meetings, and maybe we should have somebody in between the government and the forces to sort of try and, somebody electable. Because let's face it, the people making these decisions right now, they are not elected, are they, Taylor? These are people who've been there decades. These are people who are unelected. These are people who have seen presidents come and go. They've seen MPs come and go. They've seen senators come and go. But they carry on. And this is the permanent state here that is in control. And as you can hear there from William Hague, they literally don't know what to do. They don't know whether they need to do more, or, as he said there, another committee and more people and more steps in the line. So this is extremely serious, and I'm really glad that Susie is taking this step and bringing more awareness to the fact that this national security state is out of control, and our country, really our government, has no control over it, because at the end of the day, they can, if they say an attack came from China, they have to react. Now, obviously, we don't know whether that's true or not yet, because let's face it, everything that they've told us for the last 20 years has been false. And in America, it's the same, isn't it? You've got Trump at the moment, who is basically being battered from pillar to post by his own CIA, by the look of it, with this so-called whistleblower that's come forward. It's not a whistleblower, is it, Taylor?
No, I would argue that was not a whistleblower.
Yeah,
at all.
A CIA whistleblower blows the whistle on the CIA. He doesn't.
Exactly.
He doesn't spread stuff to the media about what the president's doing. That's not a whistleblower. That's a CIA spook doing CIA spook shit. But I mean, it's interesting.
And that's the problem too. I'm sorry. I just want to make this point. That's one of the main issues here is that these people that are part of these intel agencies have infiltrated all aspects of our lives, from academia to our government to our political structures and systems, everything. And that's why we are taking them on, and that's specifically the Five Eyes.